2024 is coming to an end, so I thought it'd be fun to break down the top 10 superstars of the year. I already made a video for the men, so now it's the women's turn. When making this list, I didn't want it to be purely based on statistics, because to me, things like wins and losses and who is and isn't the champion don't really matter. What does matter is who are the most compelling characters, who had the biggest arc or moments throughout the year, and when I look back years from now at 2024, who are the definitive stars. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm Brandon, and this is Wrestling Talk. Before we get into the top 10, I do have a few honorable mentions. Michin had a breakout year where she kind of became the resident superstar on SmackDown for stipulation matches. Piper Niven was super enjoyable in her tag team with Chelsea Green, and was even able to have a major title match in her home country. Lyra Valkyria debuted on the main roster and made a big splash, getting this close to winning the Queen of the Ring tournament. Kairi Sane, Asuka, and Dakota Kai continue to be the backbone of the women's division, and of course Becky Lynch. She won her first ever Elimination Chamber, went after Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 40, won the title in a battle royal, and then lost it to Liv Morgan, which was really the start of Liv Morgan's ascent to insane popularity. Honorable mentions out of the way, let's get started. Number 10, Jade Cargill. This was a big year for Jade Cargill, her first year with WWE, and what a statement year it was. She stole the show at the Women's Royal Rumble, was a part of most of the major PLEs, and joined forces with Bianca Belair to form a tag team which kind of revitalized the women's tag team division. I do think going into 2025, we're finally going to see Jade Cargill as a single star, and once that happens, I think she will only go up on this list as years go on. But honestly, I think WWE did everything right by Jade Cargill this year. From the presentation to the wardrobe to the character work, they made her a star. And now going into next year, they have another WrestleMania main eventer on their hands. But coming in at number 9, her tag team partner, Bianca Belair. The past couple years, Bianca Belair would definitely have made the top 5. But this year, WWE took her out of the main event scene and put her into the tag team scene with Jade Cargill, which creates some interesting pros and cons, because on one hand, you have a main event star like Bianca Belair helping the tag team division grow, but then on the other hand, she's not having those major matches with the likes of Rhea Ripley or Becky Lynch or Liv Morgan. Personally, I think it was a great decision, because now going into next year, once Bianca and Jade inevitably split, Bianca can also go back into the world title scene, and I think fans will still be behind her, unlike they were for Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair, who both get a lot of criticism for constantly being in the main event scene. The reason Bianca is above Jade is really twofold. One is simply her character is more developed. She's been with WWE for a few years now, so we're more invested in her. And also from an in-ring standpoint, she is more experienced than Jade. And if you look at the individual matches each of them had this year, I think Bianca had the much better ones. Whether it was her in the Women's Elimination Chamber or her versus Iyo Sky on Raw. But it's not like many superstars can really compete with Bianca. She's one of the best women's wrestlers ever. Will 2024 go down as the year of Bianca Belair? No. But both her and Jade did great work in the women's tag team division, and now we're all just excited to see the two of them enter the world title scenes. So fingers crossed we finally get Rhea versus Bianca one day. Coming in at number 8, Naomi. 2024 was a year of great moments for Naomi, making her long-awaited return to WWE at the Royal Rumble, being a part of the Women's Elimination Chamber match, WrestleMania, Backlash, the Women's Money in the Bank match, being involved in the War Games match, and honestly, despite all of that, I still think she was underutilized. From an in-ring standpoint, I actually think she got better as the year went on. Her title match with Nia Jax was a blast, and honestly, I can't wait to see what her 2025 looks like. I'm hoping that she has a major presence at WrestleMania this year and isn't just a part of a multi-women tag match. I'm still disappointed they changed her theme song though. This new one is just not doing it for me. Coming in at number 7, Chelsea Green. If you ask me, Chelsea Green is the MVP of the entire women's division. I've said it a few times already in other videos, but if there was ever a poster child for the term maximize your minutes, it's her. From a character standpoint, she's hilarious. She's the comic relief of every episode she's on. run, but her in-ring work is also underrated. You knew Chelsea Green was having a great year when leading into Money in the Bank, there was a lot of people that wanted her to win versus Tiffany Stratton. And then once we got into the US Championship tournament, it felt like all the momentum was behind Chelsea Green. I would call her the most underrated woman on the roster, but honestly at this point, she's not really underrated. Everyone's giving her her flowers. I think 2025 is going to be a more definitive year for Chelsea Green than this year was. Coming in at number 6, Iyo Sky. From a statistical standpoint, this was a huge year for Iyo Sky. She came into the year as the WWE Women's Champion and carried that all the way till WrestleMania. Apart from that, she was a part of the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and more important than anything, had a natural babyface turn. She started the year off as one of the most despised heels in the company, but once she moved over to Raw with the rest of Damage Control, the audiences slowly started to get behind her, mainly because of how good of a performer she was. From an in-ring standpoint, she might be the best woman on the roster, and I think this past War Games really solidified her as a babyface, which is why next year I think Iyo Sky's probably going to get her hands on another world title. She's just that good. And what's really great about Iyo Sky's rise in popularity is that it validates the entire creation of Damage Control. When the group was originally formed, it took a while for it to get going. For a while, it felt like the crowd never really got behind them as heels, but coming off of WrestleMania 40 and this entire year as a whole, it's clear that that group worked. It created new stars, with Iyo Sky being the prime example. Coming in at number 5, Nia Jax. From a purely statistical standpoint, you cannot leave Nia Jax out of the top 5. She had arguably the most dominant performance in this year's Royal Rumble, main evented Elimination Chamber with Rhea Ripley, won the Queen of the Ring tournament, won the WWE Women's title at SummerSlam, had victories over a bunch of main eventers like Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi, and honestly had a great title reign. Ever since she's come back to WWE, Nia Jax has been fantastic. She gets real heat from the audience, her in-ring ability is constantly getting better, as well as her character work. Her relationship with Tiffany was awesome. Nia Jax has done an amazing job of rebuilding her image from her first run. Coming off of that run, the reputation surrounding her was very much she wasn't a safe worker, she injures a lot of people. But going into 2025, the main reputation around Nia Jax is a dominant, charismatic main eventer. Coming in at number 4, Tiffany Stratton. She won the Women's Money in the Bank, which again was another match of the year, and at some point will finally cash in on Nia Jax and become the WWE Women's Champion. To me, Tiffany Stratton is one of the best NXT call-ups of all time, because she went from 0 to 100. After only a few months on the main roster, she was already looked at as a main eventer. The only reason she's not up higher is because after winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, she had to take a lot of losses. And to be honest, that does diminish your stock a little bit when you're constantly losing and you're not able to show a lot of your in-ring ability. But to be honest, this time next year, I think Tiffany may very well make it to number 1 on this list. Coming in at number 3 is Bayley, the MVP of WrestleMania season. Everything from War Games 2023 all the way till WrestleMania, Bayley was the best, most compelling character in the women's division. After being a heel for, 3-4 years, having her finally turn babyface was a huge moment where the crowd completely got behind her. And apart from winning the Royal Rumble, she arguably had the best women's match of the entire year. Bayley versus Iyo Sky at WrestleMania 40 was insane. But all that being said, this list takes into account the entire year. And honestly, after she won the WWE Women's title, WWE didn't really know what to do with her. I don't think her title reign was bad, but it certainly wasn't memorable. She had a very good triple threat at Backlash with Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. She had a solid match against Piper Niven at Clash at the Castle. But in terms of meaningful feuds, there just weren't any. That is, until Nia Jax. Bayley versus Nia Jax at SummerSlam was awesome. Personally, I didn't have super high expectations for the match, but it really blew me away. I had a lot of fun with it, and I even loved their rematch at Bad Blood. I wish WWE did more with the Bayley-Nia Jax feud, because that was when Bayley's title reign really started getting interesting. But you can only focus on that for so long, because eventually you need Nia Jax to move on, and once she did, Bayley was left with not much to do. And that is why Bayley did not make my top 2. There was just a lot of inconsistencies throughout the year. year. Started off great, took a bit of a dip in the middle, and then really came back at the end with her involvement in the Women's War Games match. I thought that was great. Number 2, Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley was the defining star of 2023. Easy number 1. So the fact that she's number 2 for this year really speaks to how much of a megastar she is. She main evented Elimination Chamber, opened WrestleMania 40, and after sustaining an injury, finally became a babyface. You can call her a tweener too, but I think she's a babyface, just one that doesn't smile as much. So it's kind of weird because on one hand, it was her injuries that kind of prevented me from putting her at number 1, but on the other hand, it was those injuries that elevated her to that ultra megastar status. I mean, going into 2025, Rhea Ripley is the face of the women's division, and honestly, women's wrestling as a whole, which is so crazy because I remember in 2022, she was kind of just meandering in the women's tag division, so the fact that only a couple years later she has elevated herself to this status is huge. Rhea Ripley is now what Becky Lynch was in 2019, just super over, super dominant, super badass, and from an in-ring standpoint, she always has some of the best matches of the year. Personally, I thought her match with Liv Morgan at SummerSlam was fantastic. And if WWE can keep this same momentum going with Rhea, she'll probably still be in the top 3 of this list come next year. But yeah, Rhea Ripley's great, one of the best ever. But she's not number 1, because number 1 is the Pure Fusion Collect Liv Morgan. It's Liv Morgan, obviously. 2023 was the year of Rhea Ripley. 2024 was the year of Liv Morgan. It started off with her big return at the Royal Rumble, but then she was left off of WrestleMania. Honestly, when that happened, I did not think it looked promising for her rest of the year. However, after that, she unfortunately injured Rhea Ripley, and then finally won the Women's World title off of Becky Lynch, and from there, we were off to the races. Liv Morgan's revenge tour finally kicked off. She took Rhea's title, the Judgment Day, Dom, and in doing so, for better or worse, became the face of the women's division, easily becoming one of the most popular stars in WWE. All of the videos she's a part of get a bunch of views on social media. From a character standpoint, she was finally able to tap into something. She was able to bring other people along with her like Dom or Raquel Rodriguez or the rest of the Judgment Day. And even from an in-ring standpoint, I think she's great. In my video of the top 10 men's WWE superstars, I had Cody at 2 and Drew McIntyre at number 1, and I think that relationship is similar to Rhea at 2 and Liv at 1. Cody and Rhea are the faces of WWE, but Drew and Liv are the MVPs, at least for 2024. Honestly, when we look back at 2024, it will always and forever be the year that Liv Morgan became a megastar. But that's it, that's my list. What did you think about it? Let me know your top 10 list in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.